Oh my god. It's so hot. Why am I so, like, hot? And I'm, like, fucking sweating. I don't understand. So, like, you know that thing where you go through a breakup and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go do some shit. I'm just gonna go do this new thing. I'm gonna go do this new thing, yada yada. And then you pick up old things as well. That's what this is, basically. I think the last time I posted on YouTube was like fucking sophomore year of high school. Like, and I'm 22 now, so it's like, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. What was I gonna talk about? I know people edit this shit. I know people like edit this shit all the time. There's some that don't. Like, I see some girlies on fucking YouTube that will like go for 30 minutes, no cuts. I'm like, how the fuck can you do that? Genuinely, how the hell can you go 30 minutes like going on and on? Not that it's bad. It's just like, how the, like, with no, they don't have these likes, they don't have these they don't have these big ass silences in between. They just have this way of just communicating what they're thinking about this very, very broad topic, but also very specific and for themselves for like half an hour. And I'm like, I don't know how you can do that without, the only way I can do that is if something traumatic happens and I'm like, listen, bitch, right? Like, I honestly envy people who can fucking do that. I don't know how people can just go on and on forever and continue to make good points that are different points throughout. Whenever I tend to talk, I tend to just go in circles about the same shit, just in a different way. I get that from my mom. My mom will do that shit to me. Like, we'll be talking, and then she's going on something, and then I'm like, what? And then she explains it, and then she'll think of another way to explain it, but it's the same, but it's like, the difference is like so slight in like her analogies and things like that. And then I'll be like, oh, okay. And then she'll explain it a third way, and then a fourth, and then a fifth. And it's not till like the sixth or seventh time that she's explained the same thing in just a slightly different way. When I've already gotten it by the second time, she's like, oh, am I doing that thing? I'm like, yeah. And then like, I'll do it back sometimes. And then I'm like, am I doing the thing? And she's like, yeah, you're doing the thing. I'm like, oh, we're doing the thing. It's so fucking bright, but I'm not trying to be that dude in a fucking parking lot talking to a camera. Like, life is a terrible thing. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I don't really know why I give a shit if I have something to say, to be honest with you, because I don't expect people to really watch it. This is more for like me. I'm not gonna be like, new YouTube video out, that kind of thing. Like, I'm not trying to do that just because this kind of stuff, I'm like, I don't care if people watch it. I don't really want people to like it's not something I'm gonna flaunt just because I'm like, this is kind of me airing out my dirty laundry, and I don't want to like flaunt that, you know what I mean? That's one thing that pisses me off is people that like that flaunt their negativity, like their dirty laundry and shit. Or like the people where if you're venting about something, I normally see this with like coworkers. It's been a minute since I've had to deal with it, but I remember at my first job in particular, which my first job I was there for like 3 years, something like that. I was at a movie theater. And there was this one bitch. Oh my god, I remember her name, and it's the most pretentious fucking name. If you ever went to go talk to her, and actually, no, I don't even know why I said if you went to go talk to her. Nobody went to go fucking talk to her. Let me get that clear. Anytime that we were like waited, I was in the floor crew where like you cleaned up the theaters after people were done, and you made sure that they were ready for the next theater, right? And we would line up like waiting for the people to leave, and in that time everybody would be complaining. Everybody would be just like huffing and puffing and making such a big fucking deal out of nothing because they're 16 and they don't want to work, and they have to wait for people to leave, and they're like, ugh, you know? And this bitch, anytime somebody complained about something, like, you know, if somebody's like, oh, I'm just not feeling too well, I had like 5 hours of sleep, I had 4 hours of sleep, she's like, I had 2. And I'm like, bitch, if you don't shut the fuck up, somebody's gonna take one of these fucking brooms and shove them up your fucking ass, because I cannot deal with this shit right now. And it was every day. And then it was her, what did I say her name was? We'll call it Amy. That's right. Amy and George. We'll say George is the other fucking dude. Amy and George, they were like yin and yang. Like, she did the same thing. No, sorry, not yin and yang. They're like two peas in a pod. She did the same thing that he did. Anytime that they were working together, she would bitch about something, he would bitch about the same thing and how he got it worse, and then she would come back with something else. And it's like there's no like in the theaters, in the hallways there's music playing, right? Like movie like soundtracks and things like that. But in the actual theater, it's relatively quiet. There's music, but it's pretty low. And so it's pretty quiet. The entire time you just hear fucking Amy and George bitching at each other about like, well, I only got 2 hours like throughout the whole fucking 2 days, and I just can't fucking function, and I have to go do my homework that I haven't done in a month, and it's been due for 2 weeks. And then she's like, oh yeah, well my boyfriend was having a fight with me after I had my period way fucking late, and I had a pregnancy scare, and he tried to like say that it's my fault because of this and that and yada yada, and like we're just all here like silent as a motherfucker, just like, can we not do this shit? And it's like, just those people just like they suck the fucking energy out of working in general. I just started a new job actually, at a coffee shop. I'm now like a barista or some shit. Which I never thought I would be a fucking barista or even apply to be one. Barista shit, like it's like hectic as fuck, but it's like it's kind of fun. Like you get to make like all the shots and all this shit. I don't know. It's new to me. Like I've never been a crazy coffee drinker. I guess I kind of had been at some point in my life, but not to a point where I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna like make coffee all the time and I'm gonna like every day. There was a little period, maybe a few months, where I was like, me and my girlfriend, I'd go and get us coffee. And since I was getting her some, and I really like the kind of coffee that she likes, I was like, fuck it, I'll get myself one too. You know what I love these types of videos where, not the ones that I'm doing right now, because you could tell this is my first time doing this shit in a long time. I love those like, not video essays. Video essays are cool, but like video diaries, it's just like a bunch of girlies just like they're in their car or they're in the room, whatever, and for like 30 minutes they're just going off about a topic. And it could be something like so simple as like just what they're doing in their life, or it could be something so complex about like the way that their brain is wired and how their anxiety, like things like that. Oh my god, there's a car. I'm the type to, anytime I'm doing something like this in public, I stop if there's somebody around, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I like wait till I figure out what they're doing. This is where I just act like I'm on my computer and I'm doing some shit and not talking to the fucking camera. Because I'm that fucking, that's one thing I always, like, since this breakup, so I've been like broken up now for, when did I get dumped? Fuck. Like 2 months ago, just over 2. Oh, they're leaving now. Okay, we can talk now. And in that time, I've been like, okay, I need to get my shit in order. And one thing that is like the biggest for me to like get over is shit like that. Like something as simple as that. It was just a car coming, and like me talking to a camera with the mic on, like me doing something creative in public is so fucking jarring to me. And I'm in a band and shit. Like I go and I sing on fucking stages and I do that shit, and that's no problem because people go expecting that. Like people go expecting that shit. But whenever I'm out in public where people don't expect to see that kind of thing, because I also like to film sometimes. Like I'll do little tiny skits here and there. Sometimes I post them, sometimes I don't. I just whatever I want to do, right? I'll just put the fucking glasses on. Anytime that I'm in public, it's like a problem for me to do something creative, and that's something that I've always kind of struggled with. Even whenever I was a kid making YouTube videos, I would make shit like this. Like I remember I would make like skits in public, and I would make like vlogs, and I remember I did some like video diaries whenever I was a kid. I used to post consistently on YouTube, and then there was a point where I stopped, and I was like 15, and I made this video called Explaining My Absence, and I was like in like this like sewage area that was like wooded, but I was like in my hippie phase, so I was like, oh, nature-y, like there's a stream and shit. I walked in there barefoot and shit. I used to walk around barefoot all the time, and I like cut the fucking collars off of my shirts. I would go and I meditate. I would like try to eat as little meat as possible. It was a whole fucking thing. I was 15. I have harem pants from that era. Like I still have some crystals from that point. But I did that, and it was like 10 minutes. That video explaining my absence. It was like 10 minutes of me just like going off about my mental state and like how I felt for months, like big ass mood swings. And I remember, like, okay, keep in mind, whenever I say what I'm about to say, keep in mind, I was like 15 at the time when I said this, right? And I was explaining to the camera in this fucking wooded sewage area barefoot that saying, I was like, I'm not a woman, but, you know, everybody says whenever women are going through periods or have their period, they are like always emotional and always overly emotional and have these crazy mood swings, right? And I'm not a woman, so I don't know what that feels like. But for the past like 6 months, that's what I feel. I feel like I've felt like what that would feel like. And I was like, or something like that. I haven't seen the video in fucking years, but I remember distinctly watching that at like, I think I was 19 when I came across it again. It's like privated, but like all my shit's deleted. Or most of it's deleted, some of it's privated. There's some that I had to keep just for cringe sake. But that one, I was like, Levi, you are 15 saying this shit on YouTube in like, this is public and you're like sharing the link on your Instagram. Like, what the like, you need to go to therapy. I still need to. That's actually the goal. My goal is to have started therapy by the end of April. Like, I'm gonna give myself like a month, just because I gotta, with the new job, I have to get a little bit used to that. I have to do things a little bit like one at a time. And also I have like some band things to do, like with recording, scheduling, that kind of thing. And that's really important to me. Of course, therapy is very important, but the ball is already rolling for the band. So I can't stop it to go roll a new ball and then go back to this one. I have to roll this one, at least get it to where there's momentum, where I don't have to keep on putting in so much effort all the time and then go to it. But anyway, I made that video and that explaining my absence video, and then I did this fucking video in some harem pants, barefoot again, in some hilly area, and I was like, fallbacks and how they affect your motivation, and you shouldn't have a plan B for your life, because it's gonna affect how you go about your plan A. You need to be tunnel visioned on that shit. You need to go. Like, don't let people tell you need to have a backup plan. You need to have a fallout. What if this doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? And I was like 15 saying this shit, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I haven't done that kind of thing in a video since in so long. And even though like there's times where I agree with old me about like that kind of stuff, especially, I'm just like, do you ever get jealous of your old self? Like your old, like, okay, so I'm 22 now, right? There's times where I look back on my 15, 16-year-old self and I get jealous of like the confidence I had. I know a lot of that just has to be with being a teenager, because at least from my experience with me and like with some of my friends, like whenever you're a teenager, you have all this confidence and none of this knowledge. Like, you have nothing going for you, but you feel like you have the entire fucking world in the palm of your hand. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, I wish I could get that shit back. But on the other hand, there's other shit that like how I would go about situations that were like stressful whenever I was younger. I don't fucking like how I did it then. I'm glad I do it differently now. How I would go about relationships was way different back then than it is now. Being able to say no to people, I was never able to do up until recently. Being able to stand my fucking ground on shit was never able to do. But one thing I envy of my old self, though, is that I had this sort of like, I almost had this cockiness, like this kind of, and I don't want to be cocky, but I want to have the confidence in myself to do things that I want to do, and do things that are not really typical or a little bit, you know, more creative, and be able to do them out in public like this and not feel so like everyone's watching me and like hide myself from it. Like, be like, everybody's watching me, oh my god. Because whenever I was younger, I'd be like, everybody's watching me. Like, fucking take a picture. Like, you know, like, that's how I was back then. And now I'm not like that at all. Now I kind of, like, shun it away. Which is really contradictory, because, like, I'll tell my friends that. And they're like, Levi, you fucking, like, go and you play shows. And you can go and, like, be charismatic or whatever. and like on stage, but the second that you get off, like you can't go fucking you can't go to the store by yourself. Like you can't, like I can go to the store by myself, but like there's certain things where I just get like nervous. I have so much social anxiety. I'm just like, it's a different thing, and I feel like anybody who performs understands that to a degree. If you perform in a honest and genuine, not ego fulfilling way, I feel like you would understand. Like people who are very cocky and are very conceited and perform for their own ego and to try to get applause for them, they might not understand what I mean, because they want to go out in public and socialize and hear the praise and hear all of that. Whenever I go out and I perform, I'm doing something that is so vulnerable and so me, and so I'm not doing this to get your attention, even though it really looks that way. And the way that I perform looks to be like it's that, like I'm trying to get your attention. And in a sense I am, because that's performance. It's supposed to grab, like you should want people to want to see it in some sort of way. But it's like in a sense of I have to do it, because if I don't, I'm not going to be proud of myself, and I'm not going to feel fulfilled, and I'm not going to feel like I'm going to, I mean, I grew up watching like MJ and Prince and, you know, all these fucking people who it was art. It was art. And I hate to get into this fucking talk about art because it sounds so pretentious, but what the fuck ever. Whatever. Shut up, Levi. Damn. It's art. And I cannot, I've grown up watching people who don't just go up there and just do the thing, perform it. You go and you see them, and you know in your head, holy shit, they are not holding anything back. They're getting so vulnerable to where it's scary. You know what I mean? Not only for the performer, but for me, the viewer, to watch it and just be like, I'm a little uncomfortable right now. Not uncomfortable in a bad way, just uncomfortable in like a, oh my God, like he's like, they're actually doing that. You know what I mean? To do something to that level of vulnerability, if it's sincere, and then to go off stage, and then those people that just saw that in you, that vulnerable side, come up to you, and they're making this eye contact with you, and they're like, hey, like, that was really good. Like, I loved that. Even if it's good, even if it's bad, no matter what it is, I just showed you the most vulnerable side of me. Now I have to deal, not that it's a bad thing, it's just really intense. Now I have to have an interaction with you. Now I have to look at you face to face. Now I have to look at you in the eyes and listen to your input on my soul. Does that make sense? Like, it's so nerve-wracking not to put it out, but to put it out, and then to, if it's like comments or some shit, like if it's online, I don't give a shit. I kind of like when people are like pulling my shit apart or whatever, like online. It makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so good, because I'm like, you don't like it. It's getting like, it's because it gets a rise out of you. I'm like, cool. I'd rather it do that than you just be like, mid, and then skip it. You know what I mean? But whenever it's eye to eye, like you just saw me giving you my most vulnerable state, and now I have to hear what you think about it. And it's not, and that sounds like a chore, like I mean it as in it's a chore, and it's not. It's just that it's something you have to get used to as like a performer. That's something you just have to get used to. And that's something that's, I'm not the best with social stuff. You know, like I do have a bit of social anxiety, and there's times where I do need to retreat. Like I need to fucking code red, like get the fuck out of there and just hide. I always get that feeling right after a show, because I'm like, shit, I don't want anyone to see me. It's gotten, the more I perform, the better I feel about it, but it's still always there. And I've been a performer since I was like 5. I did a talent show, and I fucking did MJ. Like I did Billie Jean and then Thriller and like the choreo and all that shit. And it felt so good. Like I loved doing it. From that point, that's when I was like, okay, I want to do this shit, but also I'm not going to feel happy if I don't do this shit. So really, ever since then, anytime there was performance involved in something, I'm like, let's fucking do it, you know? Let's fucking go. What do we gotta do? Just because it's so freeing, you know what I mean? It's so freeing, especially whenever you can't see people. Like okay, here's another thing that's like kind of a little bit like performers would understand, but it's a little bit weird to wrap your head around whenever you're not a performer, I've noticed, is whenever there's a sea of people. Like, okay, the biggest crowd I've played to was like 250. That was the easiest show to play, by far. The smallest crowd I've ever played to, like 15. That was the hardest one. And it's because whenever there's a whole crowd, people move as one. It doesn't become 250 individuals. It becomes 250 people turning into this one, like, posse. How we feeling? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one thing. But then you go to this coffee shop and you play, like, an open mic, or you play this show that's, like, only 20 people showed up or 30 people showed up. And, like, how we feeling? You know, like it's like a bunch of people with lives. It's just a few people. Like, you see their eyes, you see the reactions. You don't have all the fancy lights and shit. You don't, like, it's nerve-wracking. It is so nerve-wracking. And I don't know. I don't know why I got to talking. It's weird that I kind of went into this thinking I would be talking about, like, my anxiety or some shit, or like my breakup and how I've been doing since then. I kind of went into this like I might end up talking about one of those two things or something like that, because those have been the big things in my life recently. Shit, it is so bright. I don't know, I guess I just started talking about fucking performing. I don't know. I'm sure I'll talk about, I don't know if I want to talk about my breakup though. That's something I don't really want to flaunt, you know what I mean? That's one thing, is I want to get this shit out. I've exhausted my friends. Like, I know what they think about everything. They know what I think about everything. And there's no point in you know, stabbing the same wound into somebody, like trying to get a different answer out of them. You know what I mean? I don't know how people talk about their relationships or their past relationships in a medium like video. If it's a current relationship, I could understand that. Like, if I was still with my girlfriend, everybody that knows me knows this video would be like 2.5 fucking hours long. I would go on and on, right? But that's not the case anymore. And it's like, who am I to go on and on about something or someone, whatever it is, that's not a part of my life anymore, or that's a part of my life right now, whichever it is. If it's not in your life, it's not in your life. In that moment, you got to think about it like that. Why talk about it with other people in a public situation? I mean, to talk about it with friends and things like that, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. I'm yapping now. I don't know where this is going. I think I have a lot of cutting to do. I don't know when I'm gonna do this next, but it's gonna be relatively soon, I'm sure. If you've watched the full thing, thank you. If something like resonated with you, I guess, let me know, and I'll respond. But anyway, I'm not good with goodbyes, so I guess I'm just gonna end this shit right here, because I'm really not fucking good with goodbyes. Oh my god. Okay, bye.